Hi, it's Colin Cowherd. I started The Volume to bring you some of the most authentic voices in sports. While you're here, make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks.
Is the pressure on for me to like really nail an interview with my boss?
No.
A little bit. No
That's
judgment
funny.
being passed whatsoever. How are you doing?
I once had to interview Barack Obama twice. That was nerve-wracking.
How do you prepare for something like that?
Well, you prepare for it, and then I just kind of had 12 questions. I whittled it down to 6, and then if it went longer, I'd ad lib. But I just didn't. I just want to be prepared, be smart, and just like it's not. I don't prepare for most guests, like podcasting. I do, but like if I'm doing a show, I don't usually know who's on until like I step to the mic right before the show, and there's a list.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, there's occasionally, like Bob Costas was one of my idols. If Bob
Sure.
is coming on, I'm probably going to give it a good hour of thought. But
Yeah.
I'm a pressure-free guest, so don't worry about that.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I go back and forth. There's times that I feel like I put in a ton of work on certain interviews of like what I want to ask someone and blah, blah, blah. But then there's other times when I just throw caution to the wind. And those end up being my favorite interviews, usually, to just like see what's going to happen, turn on the mic and figure it out. That's not what I'm doing here with you today because I felt like I should prepare a little bit.
That's funny.
How do you juggle everything? I mean, how do you juggle from living your life, doing the herd, launching the volume? How are you doing all of this?
I think I surround myself with really good people. I'm not a meddler. Whether it's at FS1, iHeartRadio, or the Volume, I hire good people. I do my homework before the hire, and then I just get out of the way. And if I have to occasionally bark or say, hey, this doesn't feel authentic to my brand, or I think we're forcing this. I mean, that's very infrequent. But I've been doing it so long. I know what I like. I've surrounded myself with people who know what I like. And so, I also think you reach a point in your career where I'm not losing sleep if I have a bad segment.
Right.
I mean, I say this and it sounds glib, but the greatest basketball player ever, Michael Jordan, literally missed half his shots. Derek Jeter, 7 out of 10 times, did not get on base. Like, you can't let it get to your head. Prep, let it rip, go have a cocktail. Don't overthink it.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
About 10 years. I think 32, 33 years old. I just felt like you're stressing out too much. Just let it rip, be natural. I also think about 32, 33. I kind of found my voice. Up to that point, I was doing, 10% of this person, 10% of that person. I had influences, a little Letterman, a little Costas, just people that were broadcasting idols, a little Johnny Carson. And then all of a sudden one day you just you've talked so much, you stop thinking about them and you just become the best version of you. But that's why I take criticism pretty well. I'm not trying to bat 1,000 here. I'm not going to be precious on stuff. I have bad segments. I misread shit. It's just like you read the wrong stat and you have done that this week. I mean, it just happens. You can't worry about it. And, also there are people in my life who have resumes that deserve my attention. If a successful broadcaster or a successful executive comes to me and questions something, that's different than a random guy on Twitter. Who are you? Everybody's great on Twitter. I'm not really interested.
Oh my God. I was literally just saying that right before you hopped on here, but in like sort of a different context, that somebody had tweeted at me trying to like burn me in some capacity. And I responded with the accurate reason of, what happened. And they're like, just kidding. Huge fan, big supporter. It's like, oh my God, stay off the internet. That stuff drives me bonkers. People just trying to get attention or screaming into the abyss on this blue little bird machine.
You've done some stand-up, right?
I mean, I would use that term very loosely. I have it wasn't the thing that I was like, the only reason I ever did stand up was because, kind of like you just mentioned, you have your idols, these people that you really look up to. For me, that was Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Sarah Silverman. Those were, and Chelsea Handler was a huge one for me. And those women all had done stand up to some degree, maybe not so much Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, but that was something I just felt like, I'm like, well, if they're doing that, I gotta just go give it a shot. And it was terrifying. But no, it was not the thing that I wanted to do.
But think about that. Think how long it takes a comedian to go on stage, work out an act at the Comedy Store or at home before they nail it.
Yes.
We don't get that.
Yeah.
We're not actors where it's edited. We're not writers where you have a copy editor. Local news is a teleprompter. I am ad-libbing for 3 hours a day. No shit. I have an occasional bad interview or guest. I mean, like, he can't. This is live. And now podcasting's different. I do a podcast. I can edit out a bad moment. That's why I sound much more, it's much more ideal, right? As a platform, because I can edit out rough spots. But when I'm doing that 3-hour show, I'm not sure, mistakes. It's part of it, man. The greatest people, I mean, Tom Hanks has had bombs. Marlon Brando had 8 awful movies, and those were edited. And he chose them, and he worked a year on them. Like, Will Ferrell's brilliant. He's had awful movies and bad stand-ups and terrible Saturday Night Live skits. We're artists. We're performing. You're not. The minute you get out of the perfect thing, the funnier you get.
Yes. Yes, of course. Okay, I want to just harken back to something that you had mentioned, your love of Johnny Carson. Why was he one of the guys? I mean, of course, he's like, he's the greatest, duh. But why did you gravitate toward him?
My dad thought he was cool. He didn't have all the channels, so he was one of the, he didn't have all the games on. I just thought he was cool. I thought he was debonair, the way he dressed. He could relate to regular people, movie stars. He was quick-witted. He could laugh. Like, to me, he was just, I was never really into local news people or the newsman. Johnny was cool, and I wasn't, and I'm not. So there was a coolness to Johnny that I always.
I mean, you're pretty cool.
I mean, like,
Johnny Carson's
really.
A different.
But it's funny because nobody thinks Stephen Colbert's cool or Jimmy Fallon's cool or Letterman's cool or Leno's cool.
No one's been cool like Johnny Carson. Nobody.
He was cool. He was good looking, and women, movie stars flirted with him.
Yeah.
And I just think as a kid, it was just, my dad was kind of a tall, I thought pretty good looking guy. And you kind of look up to your dad, and maybe there was some connection I didn't have, but it was like, it was just, when I looked at Johnny Carson, I thought, I like sports, but that was the first person I watched on TV and thought, I'd love to do that. But I'm not funny enough. I don't know enough about pop culture in Hollywood, and I really gravitated to sports. So even when I liked sportscasters, it was usually Costas was funny. You know what I mean?
He really knew how to wear a turtleneck. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Yes. So it's just one of those things where, and I think I've bridged that, where I have a sense of humor. I don't take myself too seriously. That's why podcasting works for me. Like, it's an easy, there's no rigidity with it. It's kind of let it rip. And I think that works for my personality. I'm not a teleprompter reader. I'm not a host, the stoic host. There are hosts I watch, and they're so good at what they do, and they're so refined, and they're so classically hosty. And I'm not.
Was there ever times in your career that those like more traditional hosty gigs were offered to you? I mean, the brand that you have built, I'm sure some of those opportunities must have come your way with that like big shiny floor and, that's kind of situation. Well,
to be honest, Renee, it didn't exist. So I grew up in a world of columnists, local sportscasters, and play-by-play guys. There wasn't a me. When I went to ESPN, I've told this story before, the first 5 years, they didn't know what to do with me. They're like, he doesn't do play-by-play. He's not really a host. He's got strong opinions. In fact, John Walsh, kind of the more cerebral of the executives at ESPN, kind of the prince of journalism. It all went through John. And John liked me, and I wasn't traditional. So John said, you're the company theorist. You make us all think. And that was the first person at ESPN after 5 years that said, they're trying to pigeonhole you here, and what you are is one of one. You're the company theorist. I drive to work, I listen to you, and then you create topics for other shows that people didn't think about. And that was the first person at the company. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of what I feel like I am. Like, I'm not Mike and Mike. I'm not the other people. And that's okay. I can't host like Scott Van Pelt. I can't do play-by-play like a Joe Buck. That's not what I am. And so I've never worried about comparing myself to others, because this is what I do. It's my act. It's authentic. And I hope you like it.
It's really interesting how that happens where, I feel like somebody in your role, in the role that I've done throughout my career, I've worn so many different hats, because I often feel a lot of the same thing of people don't really know what to do with me. They're not really sure where to place me. And when I started doing commentary for Raw, they were just like, essentially at the time I was the best person for the job to step in there and do that. But like, I've never done play-by-play. I had not a clue what I was doing. So I'm thrown into the deep end trying to figure it out on national television, in this insane situation. But that was not my strong suit. And it's funny how people often think when you just see someone working in sports of like, oh, well, you can do that and you can do that and you can do that. But they are really different roles. And it's really hard to succeed at all of them.
When I created The Volume, my takeaway was I wanted to hire people, because I couldn't get into bidding wars with Fox and ESPN. So I wanted to hire people that they wouldn't know what to do with. Mm-hmm. Jenkins and Jones, Renee, what would you do? Where would you put her? So I wanted to talk about the same sports, but I just wanted different angles on it. So I looked for people who did things differently. Mm-hmm. And so I've had a lot of people, really talented people. You'd be surprised by the list of really, really top end people that have asked, hey, can I be part of The Volume? And it just doesn't fit what I'm trying to do. I'm not looking for traditional broadcasters. I want personalities. That's what I want. And because maybe it's not that I have a sympathy, but I connect with those people. Like, networks they don't know what to do with them. And it's like, oh, I do. I know exactly what to do with them. Create some digital stuff, let them be themselves, interview whoever they want. Like Jenkins and Jones, it's almost like on some days it's comedy and basketball. It's cultural. What you're doing, you're stepping out and interviewing people beyond what you've done before. When I look at you, I just think, oh, she's entertaining. That's the word. Oh, she's interesting. She's entertaining. I think sometimes corporate executives, and it's not a criticism, it's a reality of the platforms they have and the roles they need to fill. Mm-hmm. They're looking for certain things. I was just looking for entertaining people. I didn't really care what they were, man, woman, young, old. I didn't care. Yeah. And so that's what I've tried to cobble together, and I think we're doing a good job.
Yeah, I think we're doing a great job. I mean, as the volume grows and expands and all the amazing shows that are existing under this umbrella, why did you want to start doing The Volume? How did that seed sort of get planted in your brain that that's what you wanted to do next in your career?
Well, the pandemic hit, and it was killing sports talk radio ratings and advertising. And Julie Talbot, who is the CEO of Premier Radio, she had called me about 2.5 months into the pandemic, and she said, you're killing. Your show is sold out. Your ratings are through the roof. And she just congratulated me. And I remember hanging up the phone thinking, well, if it's sold out now, what happens when people get back on the road? Because remember, cars weren't on the road in America. Nobody went to work.
Right.
So I thought, if I don't create another platform, those advertisers will go to my rivals. So I said, I got to create, and I didn't want to do any more hours on radio. Like I didn't want to do a 4-hour show. So I thought, I'm just going to create a podcast network. So when the economy is good again, because for the first 2 months it wasn't, when the economy is good again and we're charging more for spots and the show is sold out, I'll retain those spots. I'll retain those advertisers. And it just grew really, really fast. We had an unbelievable fourth quarter.
Oh my gosh.
I think we've grown so much faster than we thought. And again, it's a credit to really smart young executives and the people. It's just, it's really interesting that Draymond Green for us, I think we surprised people when we landed him. He's classically The Volume. He's absolutely what we are. He's a second rounder. He's overlooked. He's a grinder. He doesn't fit. What is he? Is he the classic forward. Is he a point forward?
We're like the land
role.
of misfit toys.
Yeah. But I think that's what I always wanted. I wanted people that didn't fit traditional roles. I just wanted smart, interesting people. I remember Alex Monaco did stand up, and somebody
that guy's
showed me
a trip, man.
a maniac. And somebody said, so I wanted to create a company that was 70% content, 30% gambling content. Mm-hmm. And I saw Monaco and I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. He's a comedian who does picks. That's not available on the market.
Yeah.
That there's nothing else out there like that. And then, he was a classic. And then Liv Moods. Remember somebody showed me the tape and she was, obviously striking. And I'm like, confident. She's doing stuff from her home.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah. And I was like, that's my words. Like, yeah, she's cool. I kind of, there's not, most pickers aren't cool.
No, they're not.
So we have a stand-up comedian and Liv Moods.
Yeah.
Totally unique in the marketplace of making picks. Yeah. So again, same sports, different angles. So that to me has always been the fun in this, is just finding these unique voices.
Why do you think that these unique voices, and I do think that there is so much depth to talent that exists under the volume, and these people, other people that exist outside of the volume, why is it that they have a hard time finding where to fit in? I mean, I know there's a traditional side of things, but when you look at being a personality on television, especially in like the sports world, I kind of look back at like what Keith Olbermann did and the changes that he made of being like a cool sports broadcaster. Why is it so hard to make that happen?
Well, it's hard to, when Steve Jobs created the iPhone, he said what he really did was say, I'm going to create something you don't know you need it yet, and it's going to be indispensable once I create it. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
We didn't think we needed it. Now we can't live without it.
Right.
Most executives are not entrepreneurial. They know roles they have to fill, but they're not good at predicting. Like, nobody could quite figure out, I think, initially Pat McAfee. And I remember meeting McAfee 2 years ago, could have been 3 years ago. And I said, don't co-host anything. I said, Pat, go do your own thing. I'm not sure what you are. You just go do your own stuff. Don't worry about networks. You just go do your own stuff. So he's your, NFL punter, wrestler, swears, funny. He doesn't fit any traditional role. It's like networks don't know what to do with that. They don't know what to do with that. So I think because most aren't entrepreneurs, I'm not saying I'm some, great business person, but I think I have a little bit of that in me, is that I'm always looking for stuff that you don't know you need yet, or you don't know you'll be addicted to yet. That to me is the fun in this, not going, he's just like him. Let's hire him. She's just like her. I've been doing this 25 years. I'm totally over that. I'm trying to find somebody and you go, what? I'm not sure. And then all of a sudden, 3 months later, you're like, oh my God, I can't miss her podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I do every morning I get up and listen. That to me is the fun in this.